All right, guys, we do have to switch gears here quickly because I see we have our DC police. They are talking in front of our cameras. They had that shooting that had happened last night. 2 people were injured. About 20 shots had went off. People in front of this restaurant were taken by surprise, ducking for cover. So police talking about this incident. We're going to jump into it live here for you on Live Now from Fox.
The officers, our officers assigned here in the 3rd District, they recovered a firearm off an individual down here at 11th and S in Vermont. Right before that, a firearm right up here, 14th and Irving Street. After the sounds of gunshots, right up there. When this shooting happened, officers, within 5 seconds of the shooting where it happened. That's unacceptable. It speaks to the brazenness of the criminals that are in these communities that we're dealing with. Some of them are our neighbors, some are. And we have to really figure out what do we want to do as a city in terms of how we respond to this. We can take the political route and talk, all of this fluffy stuff. But I'm going to give it to you straight, where the issues are. And where the issues are, the ecosystem, the justice system that we have right now, it is not functioning the way that it should. The courts are not open. That is a fact. Barely open. So cases from last year, from 2020 that happened during COVID of violent criminals that have not been disposed of, what do you think those individuals are? Anybody want to take a guess? They're in community. They're in community, and their cases have not been disposed of. We have to look at, are the things happening that needs to happen when we do place individuals under arrest? The guy for carrying the gun there, the guy for carrying the gun there. What happens with that case when it goes through the system? What's the outcome? What is the expected outcome? What does the community expect when a person gets caught with a firearm? What do we expect? Do we expect to see them in a neighborhood in 3 weeks? And if we do, are we saying that that's acceptable? Because most of the communities that I've talked to have no clue what happens with these cases. They don't. But I'm going to tell you the truth. The real issue is we have a vicious cycle of bad actors who do things, no accountability, and they end up back in community. And the police officers, and I guarantee you when we lock up whoever did this, they will be no stranger to us. I promise you that. So I want us to make sure that we are reclaiming this community. And my hope is that as we do this, that this reverberates through our city, that this is what the response should look like. It should look like this. Right? Because there are a lot of corners that I go to after a murder has occurred, and it's just me. It's just the officers. Who are the people that are closest to the pain? Right? That's when we get folks' attention. Right? When you closest to the pain, when you hear the gunshots in your community, that begs a different reaction versus it being someplace else and you just kind of happen to catch it on the news. This was real for some people. But it's been happening in communities all across our city. And I'm saying to you, enough is enough. I've been a police officer in this city for over 30 years. I've been born and raised right here in this city. Started my patrol career right here in this district. And the way that we're going and the things that we're trying to do, we want to help people. Yes, we should. But you cannot coddle violent criminals. You cannot. You cannot treat violent criminals who are out here making communities unsafe for you, for your loved ones, for me, for my loved ones. They might not want a job. They might not. They might not need services. What they may require is to be off of our streets because they're making it unsafe for us. And if that's what it requires, then that's what it requires. And we have to own that. We have to own it because if not, we see more of this. We see more of this in our communities. And then what happens? When someone's shot, people are outraged by it. I'm outraged every time. Every of those 922, a lot of those 198 that died of that, I stood over many of those. Many of them. Watching families suffer when they don't have to. Because we're putting violent criminals or allowing them to be back out in community. That's unacceptable. So what do we do about it? We have honest conversations with the people, the leadership, be it the police chief, be it council members, be it courts, be it whoever. It's easy. The police department, we're an easy target. You can easily focus on the police department, about what the police department did, didn't do. That's easy. I'm challenging you to look at the entire system. The laws that are in place for people who carry guns in our community, who do things to people in community, violent acts, are those things acceptable? Are they acceptable? And if whatever you say is acceptable, it's my responsibility to enforce that. That's my job, to respond to those things that the community say, this is what the standard is. If some people knew what the standard is, what the outcome is on the other end of some of these cases, it would blow your mind. Why is it that a guy who murdered somebody is out in community after having been arrested 2 or 3 months prior with a firearm? What do we think he was going to do? The recidivism rate for violent offenders is the highest that we've seen anywhere. 87%, I think, in that area for people who carry guns. They use them. I'm mad as hell about this, and I hope y'all are too. I really do. Because I like coming to 14th Street. I like going to Chicken and Whiskey and getting my chicken out of there and my plantain and everything, my rice, my crab rice. I love that. And I don't want to be afraid for my wife to go there because some knucklehead in community decided to pull out a gun and fire it at 8:20 in the evening. That is unacceptable. So what do we do about it? What do we do about it? Do we go back to our regular spaces and, back to saying, okay, yeah, we made plenty of legislation and reform efforts for the police. Look at the entire system, folks. That's all I'm asking you to do. Look at the system. How are we holding people accountable? What does that accountability look like, and is it okay with you? On that note, I want us to walk and talk.
All right, so once again, we've been listening in to this live update from police there in the D.C. area. Now, this, again, was a chaotic scene last night as gunfire had sent a crowd running, and police arrived on scene to find 2 men with gunshot wounds. You're taking a look in that right-hand box at some of that video from just last night. What we're going to do is send some of our viewers off into a quick 2-minute break, and we'll have more coming your way after that.
I think the first thing that we need to do, we look at we look at cases, right? We follow cases through the system. That's important. We understand from council members, we understand from police, we understand from prosecutors, we understand from judges, we understand the different perspectives, because everyone has a perspective. And I think as residents begin to kind of understand these things, how the system actually works, I think we will be in a better place as a result of that. And sometimes it's having community forums like this, but perhaps someplace else, when you have those representatives there to kind of talk about the different perspectives that are there. For example, let's say you have a robbery, you got a guy charged with robbery, gun, or something like that. I'll just use that as an example. Well, the sentence range for that, let's say it's between 2 years and 15 years. A judge can issue a sentence or a guidance compliant sentence with a person receiving 2 years as a penalty for putting that gun in your face and for robbing you. Well, that person who does that does not necessarily have to do all 2 of those years. He or she might do a percentage of that time, and then the rest of the time on probation is also considered sentence compliant or guideline compliant. So that person who stuck that gun in your face and robbed you within a certain period of time back out in the community. Is that time that we have set, is that acceptable? Because when we start talking about this issue, especially when it comes from me, the issue becomes, oh, you're talking about mass incarceration. I'm not talking about mass incarceration. I'm talking about keeping people safe in community. Why is it that hold on 1 second, sir. I'm going to come to you in a second. One second, okay?
So, Chief, we got a press piece at the end. Let's do the walk here, okay?
Okay. But that's just kind of a little bit of some of the things that happen in that space that I think residents really need to really look at. Yes, ma'am.
We're going to have time for questions here.
I think what residents, whatever it is that residents want to see, I have my definition, certainly, but I think it's what residents want to see. We can go across the water to our neighbors in Virginia. They're not very far from here, right? Why is it they don't see the same level? They got poor African Americans, they got poor Latinos, they got poor whites, they have poverty issues, they have all of those things. But why why is it they don't have that? When people get incarcerated, what happens then when they commit violent acts in the community? And why isn't the District of Columbia, why are we any different?
Virginia
Would you mind? We can walk and talk.
Yes, ma'am.
you like that.
All right, so our camera is going to be doing a little bit of moving around. There was a official police press conference that's going to be scheduled here just 15 minutes from now, but you can see the media followed along the police chief here as he's talking with some concerned citizens and residents in this area. Again, this shooting did take place just last night outside of a restaurant, so it happened outside. It did look like it could possibly have been a targeted attack. Now, both of those two men, one was shot in the arm, one shot in the chest. They are considered to have non-life-threatening injuries. We're going to continue to listen in. This is Live, Raw, and Unfiltered, what we do here for you on Live Now from Fox.
The same amount of people that are standing right here would be on 14th and Irving. This shit happens all the time. And God bless. I was devastated to hear about what happened down here. Devastated. But it happens in my neighborhood all the time.
Yes, ma'am. A lot of
And I wish the same support that's happening right here on Q Street was happening on Irving Street.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
well, let's do your neighborhood.
I would like to do my
Let's do your
I want you to come to my
Yeah, oh,
neighborhood.
absolutely, I will. They recovered a gun here last night.
I know,
Let's
and
do
can I
your
tell you something?
neighborhood.
I was
Yes, ma'am.
sitting on my back porch and I heard these 4 pops.
Right.
And I was thinking, you know what, all the time, I hear this all the time. And I see people scatter all the time. It breaks my heart.
Mine too, and that's unacceptable.
Right.
That's unacceptable behavior. And so when those people are identified, how are we holding them accountable? That's the message I'm trying.
No,
that guy who recovered, who they took a gun off last night. What's happening with that guy's case right now? Right now, because he could be back in community today, and that makes communities
But you know
unsafe.
what's so sad? I see people back in the community. I see people doing violent crimes, and I see them back in my community months later. And it breaks my heart.
It breaks my heart, ma'am, and that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm calling attention to. That's what I'm calling attention to. Hey, folks, how y'all doing? Hey.
So once again, you're taking this live, raw, and unfiltered look here on Live Now from Fox of the police chief. Now, he is, of course, talking with some of those community members, but he was visiting this site of where that shooting took place just last night. Again, 2 people were injured, but people who were eating and dining in that area did say they heard about 20 gunshots ringing out into the evening air as they had this, again, targeted attack. Now, police have been asking for information that could lead to the arrest of these 2 suspects. They're offering a $10,000 reward that helps lead them to the conviction. And again, we did have a scheduled press conference coming up, but you can see he's just chatting with the community, and that's what we're listening into here live, Raw, and Unfiltered.
It is.
We have asked for police, and I'm a former ANC commissioner. We've asked for police in the past. We need police now. We don't see them on bikes. We don't see them in cars.
You will see them on bikes. They were here last night. We have extended overtime. The officers will be out here. But the other thing that I will say to you, in this, as we're dealing with this right now, this is not making any excuses, just telling you what it is. Our department right now, we're 200 officers short from where we were this time last year, and we are projected to be less than that.
So we're blaming all of this on the pandemic. It's having an effect.
I'm not, sir. What I'm saying is that's where we are. We're 200 some officers short of where we were last time. So what is the community's response to that? And who are we talking to about that? Is that acceptable? I got
None of that is
no, absolutely it's not. And when you have the resources that you have, we will use every available resource to do what it is we need to do. But people need to speak up about where they are. And see, right now, you know.
Well, I'm happy to speak up.
Thank you, and I appreciate you.
And I've been one of those that attended the 3rd
Thank
District
you.
civic action meetings with citizens. I've been one of those.
Absolutely.
I've been part of community policing for 20 years.
So is it acceptable for you that your police department has 215 less officers than what we had last time?
No.
Is that acceptable to you?
It's not acceptable.
Then who are we telling about it?
Well, I'm telling you. I've already talked to your public relations person.
Okay, cool. You good to go? All right, perfect. All right. Thank you.
If we can get some of the community folks to come out down this way.